Mike Hatcher.
Hey folks, it's Ernie Pack.
I am Natalie Jones.
What's up, everybody? My name's Matt Warner.
Hey, I'm G-Man. You know what? I'm George Joplin. I'm anybody you want me to be, but you know what? There's one thing I am. I'm part of the para movement. That's right. Feel it. Oh, feel it.
My name is Melody Knapp, and I am part of the para movement.
It's April, the Psychic Housewife from New Jersey, and I am part of the para movement.
Hashtag the para movement.
And I am part of the para movement.
And I'm part of the para movement.
I'm Sophia Tombrelli, and I'm part of the para movement.
Just wanted to talk real quick about the para movement that's going on in the world. It's all about para unity. It's about para family. It's about diversity like you'll see nowhere else. In the paranormal community, we got folks of all races, religions, sexual orientations, political beliefs, you name it. And we're spreading positivity, good vibes everywhere. So, hashtag the para movement. Join it, be a part of it, and everybody have a great day. Take care.
Why did you let him kill me? It was the clown.
You're listening to Animal Paranormal Live, where we talk about all things paranormal. And now, here's your host, the Animal.
Are you ready?
Hey, what's up? We're live on Animal Paranormal Live. I am your host, The Animal. What's up, everybody? I hope everybody had an amazing, again, I know I said this before, amazing turkey dinner. So I know I have, and I'm still having a hangover since Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but I know I feel like you could just drag me out and just pop me like a blueberry muffin. So, but I got an amazing guest here. Her name is Tessa. She's one of my good friends and an amazing medium. And let's bring her on.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Same thing. Thanksgiving hangover. Still eating.
So what did you eat for Thanksgiving? I know, like, as Italians, me and you, like, we could go all day with food.
What we were saying before, like, we just don't cook for small amounts. So, like, there could be 5 people in the room and there's food for like 30. So, but this year we did the normal turkey, mashed potatoes, but we're saving the mashed potatoes so we can make gnocchi. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
That's what we do. We make like extra and then we make gnocchi afterwards. So
that's awesome. I know, like, when I first brought my wife to my family's house up in New England, we went there. I said, we're just gonna have a little food there, and my aunt's like, yeah, we're just gonna have this and this. They weren't expecting it. My kids, they love food, my stepkids, and I'll never forget their faces when there's plates after plates after plates after plates. It just kept going. And I think my stepdaughter's face just like went to the floor and just dropped, like, because she hasn't experienced. It was like a freaking a buffet in an Italian house.
Yeah, that's usually that's how it goes. Because we have courses. It's not a meal, like there's courses, and it's always, like every Sunday too. Growing up, that's how it was. You went through one course and then another. It was like, I don't know if you did the same thing. It would be like salad. They would tease you. It'd be like salad or soup, and then you would get cutlets, and then you get pasta. And then it would just be like bread and dessert. And then if you didn't eat it, your grandmother or somebody would get angry at you, like, why you don't want to eat the rest of my food?
I remember back then, my aunt, if I didn't eat broccoli or anything like that, she would not let me leave the table at all.
No.
They'd be like, you ain't leaving until you freaking eat that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I just, now as a mom, I'm doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah. I love to eat. You know, it's amazing. It's like, I always tell my wife, I'm sick of Italian food. She's like, is there something wrong with you? Next day, I'm ordering a pizza or a calzone or something like that. It's like you say you're sick of it because you eat it so much, but then you don't get tired of it.
You don't. No, it's every day. I could eat pizza every day for sure.
Oh gosh, what's your favorite pizza?
You know what? I think because I'm from New York, like I'm spoiled. But in where I live, like specifically where I grew up, we literally, and I don't care what anybody says, we have some of the best Italian food.
Oh yeah.
So I'm spoiled. I feel like New York pizza is a very specific kind of pizza. So I really like that. But I love like old fashioned pizza, like the traditional, you know what I mean? With like the Romano cheese.
I just went to an Italian restaurant here in Florida because that's where I live right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get good Florida because when I was brought up in Rhode Island,
right,
Providence, Rhode Island, and like I'll never forget as a kid just getting that like homemade pizza. You know, they just make it right there in the morning, and you're there all day just smelling it. It's just, oh man, I'm sorry, people, I'm drooling right now. So
forget the paranormal. Let's just talk Italian.
This show has turned. It's not even about the paranormal anymore. It's about pizza and Italian. So that's
I mean, what's better than that?
Oh man! So how's it been with you? How's your show? How's life in general?
Yeah, I mean, weird, right? I think it's weird for everybody. You know, obviously, and anybody in the entertainment world is hurting right now. I think, you know, stages have shut down, and anybody who knows me as a medium, what I did was I transformed what I do into a live show because I love working with audiences and big crowds. So, you know, obviously my casino show or large venue show has shut down for right now. And then we were like looking at different venues to try to get out there and do something small. And then New York was like, no.
Oh, man.
Never mind. So, you know, I'm just waiting to get back out there with my live shows. But I mean, I transformed it into my podcast. So I started doing A Night with a Medium. And what's cool about that, and, you know, because I take the entertainment world and I kind of tie it in with what I do as a medium, because I have this crazy, not crazy, I really believe it. Like I have this kind of connection between entertainment and the paranormal and spirituality, intuitive. So what I did with my podcast is I started interviewing people in all spectrums of entertainment. Come to find out that a lot of very well-known people either have the ability that I do or some level of intuition. They're super into the paranormal, things like that. And so I've had a lot of fun connecting with different people, you know, all over the place, whether it be my Sopranos actors or there's comedians and Cirque du Soleil people. And it's funny because we all connect when it comes to intuition and paranormal and things like that. So I find it's been fun. You know, I can't wait to get back on a stage, but I'm having fun with the podcast. So
now with your shows, do you get to have like a lot of one-on-one with people on your podcast show, like be able to do some readings?
Yeah, I do live readings. So whenever I do an interview, sometimes I'll read the person, the celebrity or the public figure that I bring on. And I've done a lot of that where I read them. But then what I do is I open up the phone lines. I take questions, I take calls, and I read everybody. I'm still doing, you know, private readings on the side, which obviously has all shifted to like virtual or phone. But, you know, prior to everything, I had reached out to a pretty large group of people. I mean, everywhere in the U.S., different countries. And which it's actually luckily I've been able to do that prior, because now when everything went to virtual and phone, it's just been easier to connect with anybody, you know, as it is. So
yeah, wow, that's crazy. I know this COVID has shut down a lot of places, especially for investigations. I know, like for me, like this will be my first time going out this coming week to do pretty much. I mean, I've done other things. I was doing documentaries and stuff like that. Just finishing up one right now, but I got so much work in line. It's like it's hard because now things were doing good, and now I'm hearing all of a sudden now things are closing back down, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like it never ends.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Investigations in general right now, it's just, you know, I've been to a couple or seen smaller groups and things like that, which is fine. But but yeah, it's really hurting everything. So I think everybody's just finding kind of a new avenue or something to keep them busy until we can get back out there.
Yeah. So tell me about yourself. How did you get started in this amazing gift that you get to share with a lot of people?
Yeah. Well, I consider it an ability. So, I know a lot of people refer to being a medium as a gift, but I always clarify that I really believe it's like an ability, because I think a lot of people have that ability. It's the same as like, having the ability to be a doctor and somebody who can heal somebody. And I believe what I do to be the same. But I knew that I was kind of a medium, I guess, when I was very young, around the age of 4. And my son is now doing it too. So I have 2 boys.
Oh,
they're
wow.
right around that age. Yeah, they're 5 and 6 years old. And I'm seeing the same abilities, especially in the one, which is interesting, because I didn't know anything about it when I was a kid. And now I can kind of help my own along. But I knew that I was a medium, or that I was different, I guess you could say, when I was a kid. I was very sick. I was in a hospital for a while with a sickness as a kid, and major surgeries and things like that. And it just went on for years. So I spent a lot of time in hospitals. And, I think one of the first experiences I had was being in a hospital bed, and it was late at night. It was super dramatic. It was raining out. It was in Buffalo, and you could see all of Buffalo, and the weather itself, I think, was very interesting, because it was the first time I experienced it, and it was like thunder and lightning and crazy. And all of these white figures surrounded my bed, and my mother, yeah, it was, but it wasn't scary. I did experience a lot of scarier scenarios as a kid, but this one, my very first one, was not scary. To me, it felt comfortable, and I knew somehow that they were there to protect me. So I don't know. I don't know if that triggered it for me. I do believe I was kind of born with the ability. But then after that and following that, I started seeing things all the time. I had a man very specifically in my room every single night. And my sister is 2 years younger than me. So she was like in a crib at the time, and I had my bed, and I would see a man in my room every single night. And for years, I was afraid of it, because I'm like, who the heck is this guy? I don't know you. And I would hide under my covers, and I would be scared. And then finally, I kind of built up the courage to talk to him, and I realized he can hear me, and like he's there for me. And so I asked him questions, and I remember going to my mother and telling her, like, this is what he was wearing, and this is what he said, and this was his name, and this is what he looked like. And it ended up being her brother, so my uncle, who died before I was born. And I basically named what he was wearing when he was buried, what they buried him in, how he passed, his name, what he looked like. So that was kind of how my mom knew that I had that ability.
Wow.
And following that, it was just all crazy after that. Never slowed down. But I also didn't I didn't ignore it. There's a lot of people who will push it aside, or they're afraid of it. They kind of shut that down. And I kept myself very open since I was a kid. So, yeah.
That's really I know, like, for my daughter, because we're starting a show together, and she's very, she could feel it. She has, I feel like she has the same ability also. Because she told me, she said she's starting to get these dreams out of nowhere, like she could sense a feeling, it actually happens. So it's like, holy crap. It's like, it's so intense, because it's like she sees a whole lot, like my house is active. And I say it all the time, because it happens on a daily basis, that she'll see something, my wife will see something, my youngest one, she'll see something, and they'll tell me, and I'm like, oh, it's just the same, But it's just such an awesome experience that, especially at a young age, you get that, and then you work your way up to it. The older you get, you learn and learn and learn. Sometimes people don't get that ability until they're like 50, or they don't find out,
Or they don't work with it, because it took a lot for me. Like when I finally realized, and I have to say before I even get started, this is my squirrel brain, but I'm going to jump back and forth. I love that you're doing stuff with your daughter, because there's so many kids that have the ability, and, to have a father like you, a mother as well, who work with that and kind of give them a platform to use it and understand it is amazing. So that's that. But yeah. No, I had to say it because it's true. Like, I want my son to be able to go to investigations. Like, he loves watching paranormal shows, and he sees things all the time, So, yeah.
Well, it's funny. Like my daughter, she's like, "Can we watch Ghost Adventurers? Can we like watch this show?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah," you know. And then she's like at night, like, "I'm scared." Afterwards, but it's so awesome. But she has it's like no guts, no glory with her. Like I take her out hunting with me. She's like my pal. She's definitely a tomboy, that's for sure. And I've told this story before where I've taken my daughter hunting first time, and she is my daughter, but my stepdaughter. But I'll never forget taking her out, and we went hog hunting, and I wasn't sure how she was going to react to it. And when we were like skinning the hog, and she got so excited, her eyes like lit up because nobody's done. Even though it's gruesome and stuff, but nobody has ever done that with her, and it just warmed my heart, like how a child just needs that love and just that comfort of knowing that they just want to do something with you and just hang out and just they want that love and attention.
Yeah, and you're giving that to her and you're helping her through with everything and bringing her on doing paranormal stuff. It's cool to expose them to that and see, because like I was saying before and I was tying it in, but I didn't realize as a kid what I can do with that. I knew that I was different. I knew I could see things. I knew I heard them. I knew walking into a location, like I was naming things that maybe happened in a location without knowing it, or calling out names that, from people who might have lived there or things that have happened. But I didn't know until I was older, is like, hey, I can like read and I could help people with this, or I can, investigate and do these different things. And so I really developed myself throughout the years to where I can sit one-on-one with somebody. And, what I look for as a medium is how do I give them closure for the people that they've lost? How can I use my ability to deliver messages to help them, and it's gone personal that way. I've done it in investigations with police and investigators in different areas to help with homicides, missing persons. And it's really interesting. And I love what I do, because my ability can it can help people. And that's what I always wanted to do.
Yeah, it's all like I preach it every day. It's all about being there for that person and loving that person. Especially with times like this today. I mean, COVID, everybody's so angry. And that's why we need to come above that and show that love and that passion through all the crap that's going on in this world, And I'm all about the para movement, It's not just about paranormal, but it's about the unity in it of us coming together and showing that love and that light to other people that have never felt that way before. And that's why I made that video, just because for that reason.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I think it's great. It's true too. And you find sometimes, which is so, it's crazy, but anybody who does what we do, whether you be paranormal or you're a medium, like this can get like catty and people kind of get, and it's cool to see somebody bringing people together and building each other up rather than knocking people down. It happens, I guess, in any career path, or hobby, like whatever it is. But no, I love what you're doing. I think it's great. And definitely right now people need to connect rather than go against each other, because people are so angry lately. I was out at like restaurants, literally, like I remember like Halloween, we were in Salem and like just a couple different restaurants.
I love that place. I love Salem.
Salem was amazing. Yeah, very cool. But people are like angry, like the hostesses at restaurants, and like, it's just stressful, and you see people's emotions going crazy. So everybody's, we need stuff like that. We need unity.
Well, like I've noticed, like driving more, it's like, it's so frustrating because like so many people are driving recklessly, and it's like, people have families in their car, kids and like older people, and it's just like, and then you see somebody get hit and hurt, and it's like, why is it worth putting someone through that horrible situation?
Yeah. I always say that like there's so many. I think this pandemic too is pushing people to kind of go within themselves, and people are working through a lot of stuff because we're being forced to. So like you're seeing a lot of things come out of people because they're being confined and they're being forced to kind of deal with themselves for once. And on a mental health level, because I went for my master's in clinical mental health counseling. So like I look at everything in that way, like what's happening mentally with people, and you could see them being challenged to really kind of figure stuff out for themselves. So
And sorry, folks, if I'm missing your questions. If you guys do have some comments, please do write them. I got one right here from Jason. Do you focus on a place or person to get info, or does it just kind of happen without warning?
That's a good question. Sometimes it can be both. So if I'm intentionally speaking with somebody, or if I'm intentionally going into a location, then I definitely, it's weird. It's like a radio frequency, I guess you can call it, where I kind of tune in and hi, Natalie. I just saw her comment. Yeah. It's kind of like a radio frequency that you kind of tune into is the best way that I can describe it. So if I'm intentionally doing something, then yes, I tune in. And I focus directly on that. But there's been many instances where, I'm out somewhere and whatever, and I pick up on something or I feel something. And it's funny because people who know me very well, like they know my face changes, or like my eyes will go somewhere. You could just tell it's like my reading face when the medium stuff turns on, and like they're like, what are you reading? What are you picking up on? I know you're picking up on something. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Someone asked, what signs did you pick?
What were the signs you picked up on? It's kind of a general question, maybe, unless he meant something else. Different signs that I've picked up on. I don't know. I mean, I guess the best way I can answer that is, as a clairvoyant, I see things. So you can think of like, if I walk into a haunted location, it sometimes will show me, I'll see kind of like a movie projector of maybe things that happened in the past, and I see very vivid, and that's something that I've always seen. So I've always been clairvoyant. I've always been able to see, and it's very much like a movie projector where I can see things that have happened and what the people were wearing, what time period was it. And then clairaudient as well. So hearing, and sometimes I'll hear a name, or they'll say something, or direct me in a certain way to where things have happened and stuff like that. So I work with, like, I see things as well as hear it. Oh, and I feel things too. That's another thing. So like energetically, you can feel things. So like if I'm working with something where there was a murder of some sort or somebody died, they might make me feel a certain part of the body. I was just talking to somebody. There was a person that I had read years back, and I was in the middle of reading her, and it felt like my esophagus and my chest was literally on fire. And I started to cough. I had to remove myself. I was like, I'll be right back. So I walked away, and I was coughing. When I came back, the woman looked at me and she's like, I know exactly why you're coughing. And I saw fire. And it ended up being that I was connecting with her husband who passed in 9/11. He was in the Twin Towers. And so what I was feeling was the smoke inhalation and things like that. And I saw the flames. And so that's kind of, I guess, the best way to describe it is spirit will use my senses in order to deliver the message, or to kind of put the puzzle pieces together.
Huh. Wow, that's interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wicked Woman, Tessa, what advice would you give someone who is trying to better understand their gifts?
That's a good question too. There's a lot of people too that I think, like I was saying, around like this time where people are looking inward, and I think people are realizing that they have these high levels of intuition, and it comes out in a lot of different ways. So one of the things I'm going to start off by saying is, like, it can come out if you have a level of intuition, if you're a medium or whatever pathway you use with it. If you don't work with it and you don't understand it, it will come out as like anxiety or, different things that people can misdiagnose. So I think number one, definitely research things, look things up, go to reputable people, who have the same ability, and talk with them. I was actually thinking of doing like a whole podcast on like helping people with their abilities and things like that.
That would be awesome. That'd be really cool to do something like that, because there's so many people out there that want to know what's going on in their lives and to be helped.
Yeah. And like I said, I wish I would have had it at a younger age, because like I said, you realize like people, they don't know what to do with it, and that's where I tie in the entertainment world, where people need a release, and I see it working with the paranormal. You go into a location, you feel exhausted, you feel
it's draining.
It's draining because you're using energy, and you need to kind of replenish that, or you're soaking up energy sometimes too. It feels the same, but you're like a sponge. I use this analogy all the time because it makes sense. Like, you're like a sponge. And so you walk into a location, and say there was a lot of really negative things that happened there. Like, you're picking up all of that negative energy, and you're just walking around like a soaked up sponge. So like, you need to be able to release that. And so that's another thing, you know, people with abilities, you have to find whatever outlet works for you too as you're working with it, because you need to make sure you're okay while you're working with that energy.
Wow, that's pretty cool. We got so many sorry, we got so many questions.
No, I love it.
Thank you so much, everybody, for the questions. They're amazing questions. Keep
absolutely.
Do you find it hard to turn off the voices, or are those feelings you get from the places when you're not wanting to pick up on these things?
When I was younger, yeah. I was just talking to somebody about laying in bed, and it kind of like it almost sounds like a white noise where like you just hear voices or like multiple people talking. And when I was a kid, I used to lay in bed like this because I just couldn't stand hearing, you know, all of the voices. And then as I got older, I learned different ways to kind of block it out and kind of, I guess, protect my energy from it. And so now because I work with it every day, and I've been for many years, I can block that out. There will be times in locations though that I do hear things, and that maybe my guard's down a little bit, you know, or maybe I'm open in that moment, and then I hear a lot of different things. But I personally have created boundaries and kind of techniques for myself to be able to filter that out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Again, I was wondering, does Tessa use tarot, runes, or anything of that nature to do with reading, or is it primarily energy?
When I was about 16, so remember Sylvia Brown, like the OG of
Was
the
that
remember her?
I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of Miss Cleo.
No, so it was like after her, but her name was Sylvia Brown. She was on like Montel and like all those different shows. And she was like one of the OG people who came out as a medium and as a psychic. So as a kid, and people probably know who she is, I hope so. But she did this show out in Buffalo, New York. And my mother and my mother also has the ability. We went to a Sylvia Brown show because I was like, I want to see her live. Like, I want to know what she's doing. I want to learn. So I go to this show, and she had this table of tarot cards and oracle cards. And that was where I picked up my first deck. And I was just really drawn to it. Like, I loved it. I thought it was super cool. Had zero idea how to use it or what it meant. But I took it home. And actually what I used it for was to create kind of like a dictionary in my head, as crazy as that sounds. But if you think about it, tarot and runes and all of those things are technically a tool. So it's really just a visual tool. Your information and anything that comes through in a tarot reading or while you're using runes, like it's all coming in from spirit. It's just that it's visually shown with the tool. So what I did was I took my tarot cards that I got from a Sylvia Brown show, and I would like use it as I was listening to spirit, and I would say like, okay, when I see this image in my head, this is going to mean this. I'm going to connect it this way. And then when I see this, it's going to mean this. You know what I mean? So so I've used that to create like a dictionary so that when I do read and I do work with spirit and I'm channeling, they show pictures and they show me different symbols in order to show me what I need to say or do or whatever. So, but I don't use them anymore for like readings. I don't need them because it's just a tool. I just use spirit.
That's awesome. I'm gonna ask you this one question, and then I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions because I'm learning a lot here. I feel like I'm a student here.
It's like mediumship 101.
it's awesome. I'm learning so much. It's cool because I could teach my daughter these things. You know?
It would be great. Yeah, let her listen to this. She would love it.
Yeah. I gotta have you meet my daughter. That'd be
that would be great. Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to do on my podcast. Literally dedicate a couple shows to just kids. Like I was going to bring kids into the studio with me.
That'd be awesome.
I work from a podcast studio here in the Falls. And what I wanted to do was bring some kids locally in who are experiencing that and, who need help with it. There's kids that see past lives, there's kids who are working with spirit and they just don't know what that is. And so what I wanted to do is bring kids in and work directly with them and do shows on, children and their abilities. So that would be awesome. I'd love to meet her.
Hell yeah. Here's a question. My wife wants me to ask if when you see things, is it more in your mind, eyes, or physical thing in the room?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of people think it's like the sixth sense where you see it, physically in front of you all the time. And it's not. Especially when I read personally one-on-one, it's in the mind's eye. And same with, audio. it's in like the mind as well. So, but physically I do see things, you know, what in locations every once in a while. It's less than what I do it in the mind's eye. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of both. It just depends on the situation, mostly in my mind's eye.
Well, I know, like with me, like in my house, we have apparitions that will show up. We have this little girl that will pop up out of nowhere. She's been it's been constant. At first, it started out little by little, like once a month. Then it was like once a week, and then now it's like almost on a daily routine. There'll be times I'll be outside, she'll pop up outside, or in the bathroom. My wife has been locked in the bathroom, so we've had our front. Well, recently, my wife. I've told this story a week ago. My wife always locks the front door. Right. And as soon as she walks away, the freaking deadbolt opens all the way, and the freaking front entry just opens.
Wow.
Full swing. So it's just crazy of all that energy that just could pull something heavy like that.
It's so crazy to know that spirit, you know, and that requires a lot of energy to actually, and I don't think people realize that. Like they think, you know, when you think paranormal, they think sometimes crazy, you know, like there's doors flying open all the time, or there's always something, and that's not, it's very, like, it's not like that all the time. And to know that a spirit is actually turning a deadbolt or doing something, like they're harnessing a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to do so. So whatever's in your house is definitely got a lot of energy.
I want to pick your mind a little bit because, like, I've asked a lot of people this, especially on the show, like, through my mind every single freaking day, like, something that intelligent, how? You know, how does that happen? It's, I mean, I know we got all the energy and stuff, you know, from lightning and everything like that, electricity, EMF, but it's just amazing, something that intelligent that's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be imaginary from a movie. And it's like, how can something like that be so crazy? Like, I was just reading an article today of some kind of statue just appeared. I think it was in Africa or something like that. It just appeared out of nowhere, and everyone's trying to figure it out. Like, where the hell did this come from? And then it disappeared. Like, what the hell? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
It's like, where is all this stuff happening? Are we like going through a wormhole, or it's? I wanted to kind of pick on your mind about that because I know as a medium, I'm sure you get that question asked every single time.
Yeah, it's funny because I think number one, it'll depend obviously on the situation. Like it's not always the same answer, right? Yeah. Because I really believe spirit. Obviously, I know spirit can communicate from the other side because I do it every day.
Yeah.
I do know that. But what I also think is that when it becomes intelligent like that, there's definitely the possibility, you know, because I don't have all the answers. These are just things that I've learned and theories that I have. But like, you think of like people past, present, and future, like different like time wavelengths. Like, could it be somebody from the past, or like, could it be somebody from the future? Like, where are they on a timeline in regards to, you know, time and things like that? Are they on different planes and things like that? So how are they interacting? I think that those things are very possible. You know, it could be somebody from the past or like a past residual energy. I do think too that sometimes in location things replay. It's kind of like a residual energy that lingers in things. You know, it's like muddy shoes. I always refer to it as like somebody's walking in a house with muddy shoes and you're leaving these imprints. You know, and so sometimes maybe on an EVP or whatever device you might be using, you're picking up on things from the past. Now, does that mean that spirit is necessarily there in that moment? Probably not. Maybe, you know, but it could also be something from the past that's replaying. Something like a statue appearing, I immediately think like ET. Like, did they drop it there? Where did it come from? Like, that to me is crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that it would be, I think that paranormal too, in the way that it's expanding and how people are kind of changing their mindset and like the way that they're looking at things. They're looking at things on more of an intuitive level, and you're seeing a lot of different things come out. These ideas of maybe, you know, time. You know, what is time and how does that come into play when it comes to what you're picking up in a location and things like that?
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
See, I've learned something right there. So it just blows my mind. That's really cool. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, because I mean, and here's a good example. I'll give you an example. So when I was so I have a house obviously in New York, but when I was in the process of buying one, I was going through multiple places, and me being the person I am, I read like, okay, is there good energy in here? What happened in here? And I'll never forget, I walked into this house, and you know, I didn't want to go into I didn't want to go in. I almost told the realtor, I don't want to go in this house. Something's wrong. Like, I don't like it in here. And when I walked in, because I kind of felt bad that I made her come out. It was wintertime. So I ended up going in, and immediately I saw somebody hanging. Like, I saw just, and very vivid visuals that I will not get into. And I just got super emotional, and I left, and I was like, I don't want this house. And I had talked to the realtor after, because she saw how emotional I got. And I told her, like, play by play, I was like, something really bad happened in this house. And I saw it the minute that I walked in. And it triggered her to kind of look into it. And she went into the history of it to find out. And what ended up happening is there was multiple deaths in that house. One of them being what I saw, somebody hanging. And then they found in the back of the house, there was like this shed. And I remember I told her, because she was like, do you want to go out into the back? There's like a shed out there. I was like, no, there's something really bad in the shed. And I don't know what rituals people were doing back there, but there was like the most random and crazy objects and like these ritualistic things back there. And the whole energy of the house was just off, So do I think that house was, I think it was residual things that happened in the past. And somebody like me who's sensitive to those things, you see it and you pick up on those energies of maybe people being afraid, or, the things that happened. And so that's kind of an example, I guess, is when I walked in there, where I was going with it is I was picking up on the residual things that happened in the past. So maybe what I was picking up on were things from the past, people coming forward from the past, or things that happened. So.
Now, talk about being sensitive. Has anything like infect you in a way where it was emotionally like you just didn't want to do it anymore, or it made you afraid of things to keep going? Have you ever been through that emotion before?
The craziest thing is the very first time that I realized that I could do a reading and help somebody and deliver a message. The very first person I ever read, go figure, her son, she lost what they believed, or what detectives labeled as a suicide. What I picked up on play by play, and I labeled where he was, like I drew it out for her. I knew precisely where he was before he passed. There was, things there that he brought with him that were left at the scene. Things that led up to that day. And that's kind of where I guess the investigative part came for me, and why I kind of dove into investigative cases and things, was because I knew like I could do that. And so I wrote it down for her. And what I realized is it wasn't a suicide. It was actually an accident. But the way that it looked like a suicide. So, this was my first reading ever. Like, I'm sitting here thinking somebody's grandmother's going to come through, and it's going to be real light and fun, and it's whatever. And it just became heavy because this woman lost a child, and then you're dealing with a tragedy on top of it. And so there's all these emotions that come into play as a mother, and, and losing somebody in these tragedies that happen. And she was crying, and I was emotional, and I was trying to, contain myself. It ended up helping her, but it really had me question for a moment. I'm like, am I like, is this what it's supposed to be like? Like, am I, I didn't know, you know what I mean? And I was young. So, I wouldn't say anything scared me away from it. If anything, it made me stronger, because I knew the power behind my ability and my ability to help people and what I could do for people. And so I wouldn't say that it scared me. It definitely gets heavy. When you deal with deaths of children or people losing loved ones like that, what I do gets very, very heavy. And anybody who does what I do can understand that, which is why it's so important to have self-care and be able to release some of that stuff and take care of yourself, because it can get very, it could be sad and emotional. But I realized, and like I said, it made me stronger. So I dove into that kind of stuff head first, you know, where I did actual live like investigations where I followed a missing person, you know, and with investigators in different states and things like that. And you just learn to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Like with me and children, I was a foster parent back then, and just see what kids went through and stuff like that. Not
Yeah.
much of it does sense, but it kind of felt that way because of the tragedies they were going through, and it kind of felt that way, like going to a court case, seeing just these parents going through like in shackles, and the kid. I just felt it felt you felt hurt inside, like something inside you was just crushing you to death.
Yeah.
And
well, and you probably know, you as somebody who works in the paranormal, you have a level of intuition that you use while you're investigating and things. So what you're doing is you're picking up on people empathically. You're picking up that energy. You can feel what they're feeling, and that can be heavy.
It's very heavy and very draining, and it's like, oh dang, it's like I don't know if I could do this, and but you know what though, you learn from it, like you said, and grow from it, and it makes you a stronger person. And I just love that. It's just very beautiful in such a way.
Yeah, it's true. And I always say too, because it can get very heavy, and people who have empathic abilities, they reach out all the time, you know, like what do I do? You know, how do I handle these things? And I remind people that when you have that type of ability, you're meant for a lot. Like you were made to carry a lot of that stuff in order to help people. And it's not always the most, you know, happy and happy-go-lucky job, but you're meant to help people, and you're meant to carry that, and you're able to.
Yeah.
So,
amen to that.
Absolutely.
I want to get to a couple more of these questions because I don't have much time. But you have worked with law enforcement. Have you most been open to your gifts? Do you have to prove yourself somehow?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm the type of person, I don't know if it's the Italian in me or what it is, but I never try to prove myself to anybody. And there's been, you know, and that's not coming from like a snotty place or, you know, anything like that. Where it's coming from is I know, and I'm very confident in what I do as a medium. I've never had to technically prove myself, and anybody who's asked me to, I basically just walk away from, and I'm like, I don't need to prove anything. With law enforcement though, no, I've never had to prove myself to them. They've approached me actually. And I think that just comes from building my reputation and who I am. People who know me know who I am as a person. You know what I mean? And people that, some of the cases that I've worked with, the people that were involved or maybe related to the people who were missing knew me personally, which is also another reason why they brought me in. So I always say, like, people, it's funny because I think as a medium, and anybody who's a medium or works with disability knows this, people always want you to prove it. People always are like, you know, if you're a medium and my grandfather's here, then, you know, you'll know the answer to this. And that's not how it works. Spirit also doesn't want to have to prove themselves. They're just here to deliver a message and try to help you, you know? So I hope that answers this question.
Yeah. I gotta have you on again sometime. Maybe invite a couple of people to get a reading or sometime. That'd be awesome.
That would be great. We could do live readings. That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be. I know we don't have much. I was thinking about earlier. I was like, but we're so much good conversation right now, and it's hard when you get into an hour segment. Everything.
Yeah, I know.
The one question I want to ask you, like, what's the most amazing places that you have investigated?
Yeah, you know what's weird is people look at all these places that are on different shows and they're very well known. Yeah. I've been to Waverly Hills. I've been to very, you know, all the time over here at Rolling Hills, you know, and I've been to many, many different places. Honestly, I find that some of the most active places are like houses we grew up in, or these random little places that we go to, you know, that aren't on the map, that people don't necessarily know about. And there's a lot of shows coming out now that, you know, people are looking into different locations that are not necessarily on the map. You know, there was a location here it was in Niagara Falls, New York, you know, and without disclosing a lot of personal stuff, but it was somebody who approached me because they were having an issue. And basically what was happening is they were taking on, I guess, residual things that happened in the house is the best way to describe it, but it was physically affecting them, and doctors couldn't figure it out. And she called me, and I went in And what ended up happening is the house, which looked like a normal neighborhood house, like it didn't look like anything special. But when I walked up to the property, I saw what looked like a plantation house. So I'm like, oh, that's weird, you know, and I know Niagara Falls. And so I'm like, where does this plant? You would think like the South, right? Like a plantation house. And like, so I'm like, this is so weird to me. I drew it and I wrote it down and I worked with this woman and I read the situation and I walked through the house. And what ended up happening is it was the founder of Niagara Falls. It was his house. And the actual house on the property was what looked like a plantation house. There was a connection to slavery, and I wrote it all down, and there was an Underground Railroad situation in the basement, and that was one of the most active places that I've ever been to, and it was literally just a house, you know, like something that nobody would think of, but the history behind it, and you know, the stuff that was happening physically to the person living there, like there should be a documentary on this place. It's so crazy. Yeah. So
wow, that's awesome. Now, what place? What's your favorite gadgets to use on a paranormal investigation?
I personally I'm super I love, you know, like the ghost boxes. I love EVPs. One of the reasons I like that kind of stuff is because as a medium, when I'm picking up on things, whether it be like a name or maybe I'm just picking up on, okay, there's a little boy here. And then like to play back an audio and get like an EVP or something, and you're like, oh my God, that's a little boy's voice. And it kind of backs up what you're feeling. I love stuff like that. Because I always say, like, people always ask me, like, you know, what are your favorite devices to use and stuff? And I always say my mind. Like, it's always, I go right, you know what I'm saying? That's always first. I use mediumship first. And then I love backing it up with devices, you know? Yeah. And so anything that could relay that back or to validate whatever I'm picking up on, to me, it's one of the most amazing things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love using certain new gadgets that come out and stuff to validate on, you know, what's going on. So it's cool to get some cool evidence of just amazing stuff that's out there. But like you said, your mind just being there, I like to just sit and be quiet and sit here and get a good feeling on to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I challenge people all the time. I'm like, use your intuition. You know, what are you picking up on? What do you feel? And then go in there with the device, you know, because a lot of people have levels of intuition that they might not fully know about. And I'm like, just try it. And then back it up with the device and just see what you feel, because, you know, people pick up on a lot. Like I went to the Hinsdale house.
I'm going to go there soon.
Yes, I will. And it's funny because Dan Class, he'd been trying for a long time, and I've been trying actually more so to get there, and I hadn't. So I went in October, and you know,
was it last year or this year?
It was this year. It was this year.
Oh, because I was there last year working on a project with Dan.
Yeah,
and a couple other people, but I'm not allowed to say, but.
Yeah, no, but I mean, and so what I did was, you know, I walked in there and I used intuition, and I picked up on this little boy. And I don't know if it had ever been picked up on before, you know, I'm not sure, but I gave a lot of information, and then it was picked up on devices to kind of validate it. And there was a couple of more things exposed there, you know. So that's just an example of it. I love using my intuition in a location to see what I pick up on.
Well, speaking of Hinsdale, I don't know if Daniel Class is on, but I told him this. I told him this when I was there last year. When I left, by the way, so much crap happened there when I was there. So much. But those woods, I had a dream about those woods the next couple of days. The same thing over and over. I'm just people screaming in the woods, and it just kept constantly going over and over. Oh, here's my dogs.
Oh, look at how cute.
My dog wanted to say hey.
Oh my gosh, how cute.
But it's just amazing. It's like that house calls on you.
Yeah.
That's why I want to go back there and film a documentary, a TV series with my daughter there. That's gonna be one of the locations. So it's like I feel that place calls me back all the time, and I finally get back next year. So
people say that. People say that about the place, that it calls you back. Yeah, there's so much activity, and it's not just the house, it's the land, you know, and that's a big thing too when it comes to paranormal, and people go to like the location, but what they don't realize is sometimes it's the surrounding land that's the most active or the most haunted. And that's where it all stems from. So it's the same over there. There's just so much to that house. It's so interesting.
Yeah, Natalie says there's a lot of energies and layers in the locations tied to everything we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a question. Any advice on how I can work on my clairaudience ability? I'm just realizing I might have this ability.
One of the best ways is to literally trust yourself and not tell yourself that you're crazy. Because I think what happens is we'll hear something and then our logical mind will hop in and be like, oh, that's not right. Or, that's not true. And it's hard to differentiate like, okay, what's intuition and what's your logical mind? Because society teaches us most of the time to use your logical mind, right? So I always tell people, if you feel like you're hearing and you have that ability, trust it, write things down, and always go with the first instinct. It's that gut feeling. It's whatever you're hearing first. And don't let the logical mind kind of jump in and tell you otherwise. It's so easy for us. Like I always tell people, when your loved ones, like people will be like, well, I hear them call my name, or I'll just think of them or something, but maybe I was just doing that. And I'm like, no, go with your first instinct. It was that you knew it was them or you heard that.
Yeah.
So I always say, trust yourself.
That's awesome. Now, what advice, before we head out here, what advice would you give a new paranormal investigator or someone who's starting out and finding their abilities?
Number one, just have fun with it. Like, I think that you really, don't take it too seriously. Enjoy it. Trust yourself. Trust your intuition. Obviously, if you were drawn to work in the paranormal and to investigate and do those things, you have a level of intuition. You're drawn to it because you enjoy it. Or maybe you've had experiences and things like that. So I always tell people, just enjoy it and really just, when you walk into a location, I think people too always look for scary immediately. What's scary and what's this and that. But yourself, paranormal is not just about scary. There's history and there's all these interesting aspects to it. There's so much. And so I always say, when you go in, trust your intuition, use your intuition. Research the devices that you're using. How do you use them? What's the best ones to use for, different scenarios? Look in the history and just literally enjoy it. Enjoy what you're doing.
Now, do you have any other upcoming podcast shows coming up, or any shows in the near future?
Live shows right now haven't been I'm looking for spring. So I'm hoping by spring, fingers crossed, I'll have my live shows back up and running. My podcast is every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, and you can find that at broadcast from my Facebook page as well as YouTube. I have some really cool guests coming on from Vegas. There's some guys from Vegas who do shows out there, and I do have a Christmas special coming up with a couple people from The Sopranos, and they're all my buddies. Yeah, they're all my buddies, and they're everybody loves the paranormal, or they feel like they have levels of intuition, and so. So definitely check out my podcast, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, by spring, I'll have my live shows up and going again.
We got to get you to come to Florida here. Come in the sun, the heat.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's so cold on the East Coast right now. It's raining and cold, and I would love to come to Florida. I have family in Florida, actually. My uncle lives there. Yeah, in West Palm.
Oh wow, that's about. I'm thinking that's probably about 2 hours away from me. It's not too far.
Yeah. He lives in West Palm, and then his business is in Miami. So I visit every once in a while.
Hey, Nick. What's up, man?
Hi, Nick.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I definitely want to talk to you when we get off here live and ask you a couple more questions. But thank you so much coming on live with me. I love talking to you, and I got to have you again so we can invite some and do some live readings.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. And thank you, everybody, for the questions and for tuning in.
So definitely stay on once we go off live. And then, guys, thank you so much for joining me on a Monday night. I know it's the beginning of the week, but you guys stay blessed and stay safe. Cheers. Bye-bye.